That thing in the forest spoke in my dad's voice, and then it said my sister's name. My mother told me the woods had a voice, and that it learned my sister's name. That was 9 years before my own name was almost added to its vocabulary. We lived on the edge of a vast, unnamed stretch of poplar and pine in northern Alberta. My father, Abram, called it Living Right, but my mother, Leora, just called it Living. After my sister Annalise was taken by a flash storm during a chanterelle hunt, Leora never stepped past the tree line again. The woods became a wall around our lives, a constant, quiet reminder of what it had swallowed. I turned 15 that autumn. The air grew teeth, and Abram decided it was time I learned the ways of men. That meant learning the rifle. He had a collection, but his pride was a weathered Weatherby Vanguard he called the Judge. He pulled a second one, newer and still smelling of oil and steel, from the cabinet and pressed it into my hands. From the cabinet and pressed it into my hands. A man provides, Ovid, he said, his voice firm, ignoring the way my mother flinched by the stove. Abram, please, she whispered, not looking at us. The sky looks heavy. He'll be with me, Leora. He's not a child. But I was. And as we walked into the oppressive green and gray of the forest, the rifle felt like a heavy, awkward lie in my arms. For hours, we saw nothing. The forest was holding its breath. The only sounds were the crunch of our boots on damp earth, and the occasional caw of a raven that sounded more like a warning than a welcome. The sky curdled from gray to a bruised purple, and the first drops of rain began to fall. They were fat and cold, hitting the leaves around us with a sound like tapping fingers. Abram sighed, the steam of his breath pluming in the frigid air. That's it. We head back. But we haven't gotten anything, I said, the complaint sounding childish even to my own ears. I wanted to bring something back, a buck. Proof. The forest is no place to be in a real downpour. We'll eat from the garden. His tone was final. He knew these woods, and I knew better than to argue when he used that tone. As we made our way back, I saw it. A flicker of movement to my left, maybe 70 yards deep in the trees. It was a shape, broad and dark, half hidden behind a thicket of birch. A bull moose, maybe, or a big deer. Dad, I whispered, turning to point. Over there. But he wasn't there. The space beside me was empty. And it wasn't just that he was gone. The world had gone silent. The drumming rain, the wind sighing through the pines, the rustle of leaves, all of it just stopped. It was a vacuum, a heavy, pressing nothing that pushed on my eardrums. I was alone in a world without sound. Then, a single word cut through the dead air. Ovid. It was my father's voice, but it was wrong. Distant, thin, like it had traveled a long, long way to reach me. Dad, I yelled, my own voice sounding loud and alien in the sudden silence. Over here, son, the voice called back, seeming to come from where I'd seen the shadow. Follow me. And I did. Like a fool, I did. I pushed through soaking branches, the cold water dripping down my collar. We called back and forth for what felt like an eternity. Recalled back and forth for what felt like an eternity. With every call, his voice sounded more and more strange, like it was echoing from the bottom of a well, wet and hollow. Finally, through a gap in the trees, I saw his silhouette. Relief washed over me, so powerful it made my knees weak. Dad, I'm here. I see you, the silhouette replied, the voice now seeming to come from just behind it. Come on over. I took a step forward, then another, and then I stopped. The shape wasn't moving right. It wasn't moving at all. As I got closer, my relief curdled into ice. It wasn't my father. It was a stag. A massive one, standing stock still in the gloom. Its antlers were a crown of thorns, tangled with what looked like old, rotting strips of cloth. But its eyes were the worst part. They were wide, staring, and milky white. It was blind. I raised the rifle, my heart hammering against my ribs. My thumb found the safety. Then its jaw unhinged. It didn't open like an animal's. It just dropped, swinging down like a broken gate, impossibly wide. And from the black, silent cavern of its throat came my father's voice, perfectly clear and close. The forest is a dangerous place in a storm, Ovid. My brain short-circuited. A scream lodged in my throat, and I pulled the trigger. The rifle bucked against my shoulder, the crack of the shot deafening in the still air. I hit it, I know I did. A dark patch bloomed on its shoulder. I hit it, I know I did. A dark patch bloomed on its shoulder. But it didn't fall. It just shuddered, a full-body tremor, and then it did something that broke the last of my courage. Slowly, deliberately, it rose onto its hind legs. The creature towered over me, a black monolith against the gray sky, easily 8 feet tall. And then the sound started. Not just my father's voice anymore. It was a chorus spilling from its gaping mouth, a symphony of stolen lives. A woman sobbing, a man reciting a desperate prayer. The static crackle of a radio. The static crackle of a radio. And woven through it all, fragments, whispers of names and years. Bergeron, missing since '72. The boy from the creek, November 1981. The voices layered and clawed at each other, a torrent of terror and confusion. And then a new voice cut through the cacophony, high and clear and pure. A little girl's voice. Mommy, I found some pretty mushrooms. Annalise. My sister's voice, stolen from that day 9 years ago, echoed from the throat of this monster. The sound didn't just scare me, it hollowed me out. The thing took a lumbering step toward me, its unhinged jaw drooling a thick black saliva. The memory of my sister's laughter, now a weapon used against me, ignited something deep in my gut. Fear gave way to a white-hot rage. I wasn't a boy anymore. I was a brother. I wrenched the bolt back, slammed a new round into the chamber, aimed for one of those milky white eyes, and fired. The second shot hit true. The creature's head snapped back with a wet crunch. The chorus of voices choked, sputtered, and died. The massive body swayed for a moment, then crashed to the forest floor with a sound like a falling tree. Silence returned. The real silence, followed by the gentle patter of the rain, starting up again as if it had never stopped. I stumbled backwards, my legs shaking. On the ground was just a stag. A big, dead stag. The strips of cloth in its antlers were just moss. Its jaw was closed. Through the trees, I saw a light. The warm, yellow square of our kitchen window. I saw movement. My mother, her face buried in her hands at the table. And my father, my real father, pacing back and forth, his face a mask of frantic worry. He was safe. He was home. I don't remember walking back. I only remember the door swinging open and my parents rushing out, their voices a blur. I dropped the rifle in the mud and let them drag me inside, into the light. That was 17 years ago. I live in a city now, on the 20th floor of a concrete tower that scrapes the sky. I need the noise, the traffic, the assurance of a million other lives pressing in all around me. I never went back to that house, to that forest. But sometimes, when a hard rain comes at night, lashing against my window, I look down. I see the empty street below, washed in the lonely orange glow of a sodium lamp. And sometimes, I see a figure standing in that light. It looks like a person, just standing there in the downpour, but they stand too still. And as I watch, my breath fogging the glass, they'll lift their head to look right up at my window. Their neck will bend, turning farther and farther, at an angle that is not and has never been human. And they'll open their mouth. I can't hear a thing from this high up, but I feel it. A sudden, deep quiet. The same deep quiet, the same dead, hollow silence that fell over the woods right before it took my father's voice. The silence that means it's listening, learning.